Part 57. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 579. UN, be careful, I'm about to launch an attack. Remember, you only have one chance. If you fail, all the efforts we have made in Nyoxing for this god-killing battle will be in vain. Shun Yuan listened to the words of the Nyoxing god of war in the communication, and finally managed to control his emotions. When General Cao told him that people from the Liang civilization would appear in this mission, he originally thought that he could ignore Liang. Yang Ren successfully completed the mission, but now Shun Yuan realized that he couldn't ignore them at all. The hatred of destroying the star and annihilating the clan cannot be resolved by time at all, but the first priority at the moment is to assassinate Jarvan III. Sir, I'm ready. The Nyoxing warrior nodded, said one word okay, and then waved his hand. The dozens of Nyoxing sharp knife warriors who gathered around him tore off their disguises one after another, revealing their original attire. In the royal spaceship that was flying forward leisurely on the central avenue of Dexing, Jarvan III was discussing with Crown Prince Liang some commonalities between the two civilizations and whether the two sides could have more in-depth cooperation in the future. At this moment, the spacecraft suddenly made an urgent evasion, and then there was a loud bang. Jarvan III watched helplessly as the bulkhead of the spacecraft beside him and Crown Prince Sun was torn open by an unknown object. And the entire spacecraft was like a wild horse that had escaped the reins, spinning in circles in the air and crashing into the building next to Central Avenue with a bang. Nyoxing god of war recalled his black cutting with a wave of his hand and roared loudly, "Attack and defeat them." Suddenly there was loud gunfire, accompanied by the horrified shouts of the Dexing people on the Central Avenue, but neither side paid attention to them at the moment. This time, the Nyoxing sharp knife troops brought by Nyoxing god of war are all equipped with long-range weapons and equipped with god-killing armor-piercing bullets. The sudden sound of gunfire prevented the defending legion from reacting immediately, and they were greeted by a barrage of god-killing armor-piercing bullets. They suffered heavy losses immediately, even though they were super soldiers. In the face of the god-killing armor-piercing bullets designed to defeat super soldiers, they are not much different from fragile mortals. Jarvan III moved away the twisted metal debris that was pressing on him, climbed out of the damaged spaceship, and looked around the Central Avenue filled with screams and gunshots. For a moment, he thought he had arrived at a battlefield. Noxians. Your Majesty the King, please follow us back to the palace immediately. The Guards Corps is stationed there. The Noxians will never dare to attack there. The accompanying bodyguard half knelt on the ground, begging Jarvan III to return to the palace immediately and be under the protection of the Praetorian guards. Jarvan III, however, was very calm and directly ordered, "No need, this must be a small infiltration force from Nyoxing. It won't do anything. Call the Imperial Guards over and annihilate them on the spot." After speaking, Jian III assigned others to search for traces of Crown Prince Liang. It was a small matter for the Noxians to assassinate him. If something happened to Crown Prince Liang on Dexing, he would not be able to explain it to Emperor Hunkin. Just when Jarvan III was commanding the bodyguards and defending legions present to organize a defense to resist the Noxian attack, Shun Yuan in the distance finally seized the opportunity. After pulling the trigger, a flash of blue lightning burst out from the muzzle of the god-killing gun, and the god-killing bullet passed through the air at an incomparable speed and shot towards its target across a distance of several kilometers. Jian III felt something. He turned slightly and a huge blood flower burst out of his chest. A blood hole was directly blasted out by the god-killing bullet. "Ah! Your Majesty the King. Protect King Jarvan quickly, there are snipers around." The royal guards of the blinking sword organized a human wall, making Shun Yuan unable to judge whether Jian III was killed by him or not. "Sir, I have successfully hit Jarvan III, but I am not sure if he is dead." An axe split a defending legionnaire in half vertically, and the Noxing war god was delighted when he heard this. "Well done, Yuan. This way our mission is half successful. Now you can shoot as you like and make sure to severely damage the defending army. Nyoxing, god of war, was still on the phone when a voice filled with endless anger came into his ears. You guys, gods of war from Nyo Star, dare to invade the star. Aren't you afraid of an all-out war between the star and Nyo Star? The Nyoxing god of war did not reply immediately. He turned around and slashed out with black cutting force, just in time to knock open the void sword that had been struck down by the power of the divine river. A huge roar suddenly sounded, and the spreading shock wave shook the surrounding buildings to the point of collapse. Then the dust raised by the impact quickly dispersed, revealing the ground that was rolled over by the huge force of the collision, and two human figures in it. Now that I'm here, what's the point of what you just said? As soon as Nyoxing, god of war, raised the black cut in his hand, he prepared to continue attacking. At the same time, he began to guard against the power of Kamigawa using moves that could temporarily block the movement of energy, so he did not blindly increase the energy output. The battle between Nyoxing, god of war, and the power of Kamigawa was fierce, and the damage caused by the aftermath of their battle was much greater than the destruction caused by the battle between Nyoxing Sharp Knife and the defending army. Fortunately, both of them consciously fought towards the less crowded place, otherwise the capital of Dexing would have been destroyed by the time the winner was decided between them. Although Nyoxing, god of war, hopes that Nyoxing can annex Dexing and control the entire Dexing system as a whole, he is not a person who kills people too much. Although he hopes to win or lose with the power of Kamigawa, this is ultimately just a soldier's competitive spirit, so he is more compatible with the power of Kamigawa. As Nyoxing's special super warrior unit, Nyoxing Sharp Knife does not have as much consideration as Nyoxing warriors. They are divided into two groups, shooting and assault. The shooters are responsible for long-range fire suppression and sniping, while the assault team takes the opportunity to rush in and engage in hand-to-hand combat with the soldiers of the defending legion. Shun Yuan, the only strategic-level sniper in the Nyoxing Blade troops, was breathing heavily at the moment. In the locking frame of the god-killing sniper rifle in his hand was a young man wearing a suit embroidered with a picture of a blazing sunbird and a black crown on his head. He was firmly protected in the middle by a dozen Liang soldiers and was heading outside the battle circle. Because this group of people was not within the target of the attack, the Nyoxing Sharp Knife troops did not attack them to cause trouble. However, a member of the Nyoxing Blade troop didn't think so. Looking at those Liang soldiers, Shen Yuan's mind couldn't help but picture the tragic death of his compatriots. And the oaths once made on the spaceship began to echo in my heart. If possible, I would take up arms to avenge my parents and kill all the Sun people I see. Now that he has taken up arms and has the power to take revenge, and the Liang people have also appeared in front of him, should he take revenge? Boom! As the lightning erupted from the muzzle of the god-killing sniper rifle, one of the Liang soldiers escorting Crown Prince Liang in the distance was shot in the head and fell. Of course, the reason why he joined the army in Nyoxing was just for this moment to be able to kill the Liang people he hated. This answer emerged in Shen Yuan's heart. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 580. There is an enemy attack. Protect the Crown Prince quickly. Several soldiers guarding Crown Prince Liang shouted loudly, and immediately several soldiers moved their hands, and golden lines built a huge metal tower shield in front of them. It is the micro-wormhole material transport technology, which has almost become the standard for super soldiers. Every civilization has researched in this area, and Liang is no exception. If these elite soldiers of the Liang just wanted to escort their crown prince out of the battle circle, then now they have officially entered a state of combat. In an instant, they completed the establishment of the battle formation. Several Liang soldiers holding tower shields faced the direction where the bullets were fired. The Liang soldiers behind carried out a crossbow machine made entirely of metal, and then put along the shaped metal box was stuck under the crossbow. In the blink of an eye, Shen Yuan lost the figure of Crown Prince Lai Yang in the locking frame, but Shen Yuan did not give up immediately. He aimed at the erected metal tower shield and directly pulled the trigger of the god-killing sniper rifle. There was a sound of air explosion as an object broke through the speed of sound. One of the tower shields erected by the Lai Yang soldiers in the distance lifted upwards as if it had been hit by a heavy hammer, as if it was about to escape the control of its owner. At this moment, another armor-piercing bullet fired from the muzzle of the god-killing sniper rifle, passed under the raised tower shield, and penetrated the knee of a Lai Yang soldier. Suddenly, a flaw was revealed in the shield wall that protected Crown Prince Lai Yang. Shen Yuan ignored the accuracy, and in a few seconds, all the 16 god-killing armor-piercing bullets remaining in a magazine of the god-killing sniper rifle were fired. He punched in through that breach. The Lai Yang crossbowmen, who had just calculated the approximate location of Shen Yuan and were preparing to suppress fire, were caught off guard and lost several people in an instant. When Crown Prince Lai Yang waved the luxurious longsword in his hand, knocked away a god-killing armor-piercing projectile fired at him, and directly ordered loudly, "I can protect myself. You go and kill the sniper first, otherwise we won't be able to get out at all. But your highness, your safety. I'm a third-generation super soldier, so I'm not that fragile." Crown Prince Lai Yang directly interrupted his guard's words. At this moment, his heart became slightly excited. This was the first time he had experienced actual combat since he was born. Being a third-generation super soldier under the god of war made Crown Prince Lai Yang confident in his own strength. The mysterious sniper's bullet could easily kill his own guard, but he could still block it easily. Shen Yuan took out a fully loaded god-killing armor-piercing magazine and loaded it into the god-killing sniper rifle. When he was about to continue sniping those Lai Yang people, several red streams of light in his sight shot towards his position. It seems that he has been discovered, but it doesn't matter anymore. After the words fell, Shen Yuan directly climbed up from the ground, holding the god-killing sniper rifle, and rushed forward at great speed. Almost as soon as Shen Yuan left, the few streaks of light fell down from where he was before, and something happened. The violent explosion was as powerful as the main gun of the Noxing tank. As the god-killing sniper rifles continued to fire, the number of Lai Yang soldiers around Crown Prince Lai Yang continued to decrease. However, Shen Yuan also discovered that it was difficult to kill Crown Prince Lai Yang with just god-killing armor-piercing bullets. After hesitating for a moment, Shen Yuan immediately made up his mind. He reached out and pulled out the god-killing bullet from the bullet belt on his waist, removed the god-killing magazine, pressed the god-killing bullet in, and then loaded the magazine again. The bullet supply structure inside the god-killer pushed the god-killer bomb onto the launch track, and Shen Yuan was once again aiming at Crown Prince Lai Yang, who was leading several of his soldiers towards him. The next moment, Shen Yuan pulled the trigger of the god-killing weapon, and a more violent sonic boom sounded than before. The god-killing bullet rotated and penetrated a Lai Yang soldier who was standing in front of Crown Prince Lai Yang, and bombarded Crown Prince Lai Yang's body on the chest. The moment the god-killing bullet's warhead first touched Crown Prince Lai Yang's body, the special energy it emitted directly destroyed the microscopic-level supercell energy shield constructed by the super gene. The god-killing bullet then penetrated Crown Prince Lai Yang's skin and muscles, while continuously radiating special energy outwards, destroying the super gene, paralyzing its energy supply, and inhibiting its self-replication and repair capabilities. This is like pouring sand into a complex machine that is running. The machine will only get stuck and become paralyzed. The same goes for Crown Prince Lai Yang. He only felt that his whole body was weak and became extremely weak. Severe pain came from the wound, and there was no sign of relief. It seemed that his own repair ability had disappeared, but he could feel the pain in his body. The energy reserve is quite sufficient. Shen Yuan spent a lot of effort to kill all the desperate Lai Yang soldiers, and then he walked to the Lai Yang crown prince who was lying on the ground with the god of killing, and stared indifferently at the Liang crown prince who had lost the ability to resist. "I am the crown prince of Liang civilization, are you sure you want to kill me? Aren't you afraid of the revenge of my father, the sun god?" But the only response from Crown Prince Liang was Shen Yuan's cold words, "All Liang people deserve to die." Then Shen Yuan pulled out the sword on his back and pierced Crown Prince Liang's chest. The mass-produced god-killing sword manufactured by the Nyoxing God-Killing Martial Development Bureau has much more serious consequences than a mere god-killing bullet. In less than a few seconds, Crown Prince Liang's eyes dimmed, and there was still something vaguely visible in it. See the souvenirs of the students. When Dexing fell into chaos, the Nyoxing army, which had been prepared for a long time, directly launched an attack, tore apart Dexing's defense line, and went straight in to surround Dexing as quickly as possible. Jarvan III was unconscious, the power of Shen He was severely damaged, and other high-level officials of Dexing suffered heavy losses due to the attack and killing by Nyoxing's sharp knife troops. In this situation, even if Dexing launched a counterattack, they were eventually killed early. The prepared Nyoxing army was defeated. Nyoxing promoted the formation of the Dinyo Alliance for Common Development and Common Progress. The Dexing army, which lost its upper-level command, fought alone, and finally surrendered one by one when they saw that there was no chance of winning. And Nyoxing did live up to their slogan. They did not engage in massacres, nor did they make it too difficult for Dexing's troops to surrender. They even sent troops to help maintain order. This greatly reduced the resistance of the Dexing people who were originally very resistant to Noxing. The conflict between the Dino stars lasted for nearly 1,000 years, but it came to an end in a short period of time that no one expected. The Nox star annexed the civilization de stars at the same level as him in an extremely exaggerated time. This situation was not limited to angels. Even Noxing did not expect to be able to swallow Dexing, a 10,000-year-old neighbor, at such a small price. Dexing Civilization Alliance declared its collapse. Many civilizations that relied on Dexing had to switch to Noxing, otherwise they might be regarded as examples and suppressed if it was too late. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 581. You're well, Jarvan III. The head of Nyoxing stood in front of the energy barrier of a cell and greeted Jarvan III, whose injuries inside had been healed and a suppressor was placed on his wrist. Jarvan III remained silent and did not speak, but the leader of Nyoxing did not care about Jarvan III's lack of cooperation. Jian III, we Nyoxing and Dexing have taken care of each other for a long time, and we have to admit that Nyoxing's development to the present level cannot be separated from the threat of Dexing. It is undeniable that this has seriously slowed down the development of both of us, making it impossible for us to focus all our attention on external development. We need to hoard a large army to guard against each other at any time. Speaking of this, the head of Nyoxing showed a proud look. But it is a pity that from today on, the era in which we guard against each other will become history. Nyoxing and Dexing will become a whole and become a veritable Dino civilization. The head of Nyoxing turned his back, leaving only the back of Jarvan III, but his voice still reached the ears of Jarvan III. This universe is very big, and angels are high above to enforce their order of justice. Liang is located in the Tiandao galaxy, without any matching opponent constraints, and it is developing rapidly. If we Dino fight with each other, we will only be pushed further and further away from them. Only when we become a whole can the Dino civilization have the possibility to stand at the pinnacle of the universe. In fact, by now, Jarvan III also knows that he has completely failed. During the period when he was imprisoned by the Noxian military, most of the people in Dexing who dared to resist Noxing have been eliminated. The reason why the head of Nyoxing came to see him and described to him in words the bright future after Dino merged into one was that he wanted to use himself to accelerate the speed of Dino's fusion, and at the same time combine his Jarvan royal family and the power of Kamigawa incorporate into Nyoxing's combat system to enhance Dino's overall external strength. Jian 3, you have to think carefully. If you cooperate, your Jarvan family will still be the royal family of Dexing, and we on Nyoxing will not be able to tolerate a mere royal bloodline. After saying that, the head of Nyoxing did not stay any longer and left the prison where Jarvan 3 was imprisoned. Finally, after a period of thinking, Jarvan 3 finally agreed to the fact that Dexing would be merged into Noxing before the leader of Noxing lost his patience, and publicly stated that Dexing and Noxing would from now on merge into one, collectively known as Dexing Civilization. For this result, although most of the German people were expected, there were still those who were unwilling to cooperate. However, under the super warrior army of Nyoxing, all those who did not cooperate were forcefully suppressed. Nyoxing used iron-blooded methods to tell those who did not cooperate what would happen to them if they resisted, and those who cooperated would be treated like Nyoxing citizens. The reaction of the people of Nyoxing is not big, because Nyoxing civilization is a multiracial civilization, but the Nyoxing people have always firmly occupied the position of the main ethnic group. When the two civilizations of Dino were merging, Liang civilization fell into mourning. When Emperor Hunkin of Liang received the news of his son's death, he first couldn't believe it. His son was just an envoy visiting Dexing. The best Nyoxing could do was imprison his son, and it was impossible to kill his son. It was precisely because he was sure that his son would not be in danger that De Hunkin felt relieved to let his son visit Dexing to increase his experience. At first, De Hunkin wanted to go to Dexing to discuss the attack on Noxing with Jian 3. However, his son died at the hands of Noxing people, which made De Hunkin no longer consider the future development strategy formulated by Liang. Now he just wants to avenge his son, and work with Dexing to completely destroy Nyoxing, so as to tell other civilizations how terrible the consequences of killing his Emperor Hunkin's son are. But then Dexing and Noxing announced to the outside world that they would merge into the Dino civilization. Jarvan 3 even attended the meeting with the leader of Noxing to show the truth and determination of the integration of the two major civilizations of Dino. This is an essential procedure for Dino, because it can greatly strengthen the cohesion of Dino during the initial integration period. But this was different for De Hunkin. He felt that Liang's civilization had been betrayed. Liang and Dexing formed an alliance to fight against Nyoxing, but Dexing came together with Nyoxing without saying a word. De Hunkin was already suffering from huge regret and guilt because of the death of his only son, and he urgently needed an outlet to divert his attention. Originally, the target of this vent was Nyoxing, who caused the death of his son, Crown Prince Liang, but now Dexing's betrayal filled De Hunkin's heart with endless anger. So after the funeral of Crown Prince Liang, Emperor Hunkin immediately set off for the Dino system, intending to find an explanation from Jarvan 3. Jian 3, please come out. My child just died on your planet, and you got together with the people of Nox. Could it be that everything you said before was just to deceive me? The losing king also regards your German star as an ally. De Hunkin's words were filled with anger, seemingly due to his emotional fluctuations. His whole body was radiating huge amounts of heat and energy to the surroundings, as if a star appeared on the surface of Dexing. The earth dried up quickly, the plants turned into charcoal, and the air seemed to be burning. Some Germans couldn't bear the high temperature, screaming in pain, and their bodies were covered in green smoke as if they were going to burn in the next moment. Sun God, please stop your behavior, otherwise I will regard you as an enemy of Dexing. Looking at the tragic situation of the people of Dexing, the power of Shenhe shouted loudly at De Hunkin to put away his energy and release it, with an extremely anxious look on his face. In the short time since Emperor Hunkin arrived at Dexing, the casualties among the people of Dexing have exceeded 10,000 and are still rising rapidly. It is true that Dehunken's passive energy release covers a wide area, with a radius of hundreds of kilometers. Temperatures in various regions have increased to varying degrees. The temperature around Dehunken was even more terrifying. The soil, metal, and buildings all burned under the high temperature and turned into ordinary magma fluid flowing freely. Dehunken couldn't listen to the warning of the power of the divine river at all. He just wanted to see Jarvan 3 now. Call Jarvan 3 for me, or I will destroy the city. You have the guts to kill my children, but don't you have the guts to come out to see me, Jarvan 3. The power of Kamigawa looked at Dehunken, who had not restrained his power at all, and looked at the innocent people of Dexing who were wailing in pain, even losing their breath of life, and covered with white smoke, and finally made a decision in their hearts. King Liang, if you don't listen to my warning and wantonly kill the residents of our Dexing, I, the power of the divine river, will attack you here. How can you attack me? I am the god of the sun. Anyone who exists in front of me will turn into ashes. Even if it's your virtue star, I only need to move my fingers to destroy it. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 582. Really, King Liang. The power of Kamigawa lowered his head slightly, and the shadow covered his face. Facing the Liang king, who was indiscriminate and used his power to massacre the residents of Dexing indiscriminately, he had reached the limit of his endurance. Quiet. Dehunken suddenly felt his consciousness pause, and his passive energy release stopped for a moment. When he recovered, the power of the divine river had already rushed forward. Boom! Dehunken was directly struck by the power of the divine river with his sword, creating a big crater on the ground. The power of Kamigawa, you are seeking death. Dehunken became even more angry after being attacked, as if he had lost his mind. He raised his hand and pointed it in the direction of the star in the Dino galaxy. The next moment, dazzling light fell from the sky, and flame flowers bloomed on the earth. The huge ring of fire was clearly visible even in the outer orbit of Dexing. Solar flare bombing. The sun god's signature move is famous throughout the known universe for its huge range of destructive power. In the past, the power of Kamigawa was only heard and read about. But I have never experienced such a shocking experience in person. Everything I saw turned into scorched earth. The original city of Dexing had been wiped off the surface of the planet, leaving only an explosion crater more than 10 kilometers away. This was just Dehunken's casual decision. One strike. After this solar flare bombardment, Dehunken also calmed down. Looking at the charred earth around him, he felt a little regretful. This is not in the territory of those ordinary civilizations. Even if I blow up a few cities, those civilizations can only break their teeth and swallow them in their stomachs. This is Dexing, one of the three major god-making civilizations. The power of Kamigawa fell to his knees weakly. Although the flare bombing caused damage to him, it was not fatal, but the surrounding scene was like a handful of god-killing weapons piercing his heart. The power of the divine river, this is the power of this king. The only way to challenge our Liang civilization is to destroy it. Therefore, by handing over the murderer of my child, I can no longer destroy the cities on Dexing. Even though Dehunken already felt a trace of regret for everything he had done impulsively, as the Liang king, he could not bow to others, let alone the Dexing people. If he bowed his head, how could he ask for an explanation for his child, but his words still revealed the intention of calming down the matter. The power of Kamigawa, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly laughed when he heard this. He slowly stood up holding the sword in the void, with a strong sense of murder on his dirty face. King Liang, if you want to fight, fight, if you don't want to fight, stop. Who the hell do you think you are? You destroyed a city in Dexing, with more than 1 million people in Dexing. More than 1 million of my compatriots. Could it be that you, Liang King, just said this and let it go? Is there such a thing as forgetting in the world? After saying this, the power of the divine river didn't care about Dehunken's expression, and directly raised the void sword, with blue energy flashing in his eyes. The void strike has begun, the surrounding environment is being constructed and the surrounding data is being analyzed. Redefine the dark energy arrangement and add the god-killing module. The power of the divine river also activated the true fire, directly activating the void strike ability, and then dragged the void sword and rushed towards Dehunken. Since you are unwilling to hand over the murderer of my son, don't blame me for my cruel methods. After saying this, Dehunken raised his hand, and the scorching orange energy in his hand condensed into a dazzling fireball like a star. Then the fireball shot towards the power of Kamigawa. The next second, the same fireball appeared again in Dehunken's palm and continued to shoot out, like a machine gun spitting out fireballs. Boom! The power of Kamigawa did not choose to dodge Dehunken's attack. He waved the void sword in his hand and shot away the incoming fireballs, creating terrifying explosions in the surrounding area. Those who couldn't dodge directly used their invincible body to resist, leaving traces of melting on the body armor. Seeing that long-range bombing had little effect on the power of the divine river, Dehunken reached out to carry out a golden halberd and stepped forward to engage with the power of the divine river. Terrifying roars replaced the explosions, and they sounded one after another, but after a few moves, Emperor Hunken was unable to defeat the power of Shenhe, and was left with a big hole in his chest by the void sword. Suddenly a feeling of weakness came over him. Dehunken raised his hand and struck with a microflare bombardment. Flowers of flames bloomed on the earth again, but the range was not as wide as the previous solar flare bombardment. The power of Shenhe was directly affected by this strike. The microflare bombardment blew it away. After being bombarded by solar flares, bombed by micro-fusion fireballs, and bombed by micro-solar flares, the armor on the power of Kamigawa was finally declared scrapped, revealing his strong body covered with burns. The power of Kamigawa also discovered that Dehunken's energy reserve was extremely large and almost endless, and there was no need to spend time converting dark energy. In fact, just as the power of Kamigawa thought, as the sun god, Dehunken's core ability is the storage and mobilization of energy. In addition, Dehunken's friend, Serge, one of the space students, is even more important in Dehunken. Stellar connection technology was added to Hunken's super gene. That is to say, he can connect to a star that is no more than one planetary system away, and then mobilize part of the power of the star for his own use. This is why Dehunken is called the sun god, because he can truly control the sun, that is, the star. Strength. At this moment, the power of the divine river was in a tough fight. Emperor Hunken didn't fight him hard at all. He raised his hand to either microsolar flare bombing or fusion bombing. If it weren't for the powerful recovery ability of the divine river's invincible body, the emperor would have been killed long ago. Hunken was killed by the non-stop bombing. But even though the strength and recovery ability of the invincible body of the power of Kamigawa are extraordinary, it will inevitably fall into a state of energy shortage after enduring Emperor Hunken's bombing for a long time. Because the genetic engine of the power of Kamigawa is not only responsible for converting the energy recovered by the invincible body, but also provides energy for the void sword and void strike. The three functional modules are all large energy consumers and cannot withstand such a fierce confrontation. And because of Dehunken's uninterrupted bombing, the power of the divine river was unable to activate the final one-hit kill. Because Dehunken also knew that the most powerful power of the divine river was its void ability, so he was very cautious and did not attack at all. Give it a chance to perform. The result of the battle between the two was that hundreds of kilometers around a nearby Dexing star fell into a desperate situation. Both the civilians of Dexing and the animals and plants on the surface were destroyed by the continuous high-temperature radiation and the raging shock and impact. Once such a big event happening in Dexing will of course alarm the top management of Nyoxing. Jarvan III also knows that his presence now will only add fuel to the fire, because the alliance between Dexing and Nyoxing is an indisputable fact. The most important thing now is to let De Hongkun calm down. If he was killed by De Hongkun out of anger, then the relationship between Danyo and Lai Yang would really be irreversible. However, the head of the Nord Star had a different opinion than Jarvan III. He believed that Emperor Hunkin dared to go to the Der Nor civilization alone and wreaked havoc on the Der Star, resulting in the death of millions of innocent civilians. This was a provocation to the newly born Den Nor civilization. Therefore, the leader of Nyoxing ordered the Nyoxing god of war who was still in Dexing to support the power of Kamigawa and defeat or capture De Hongkun. If the opponent continued to resist, he would kill him on the spot. Regarding Jarvan III's indecisiveness, head of state Nyoxing responded directly with disdain. If Lai Yang wants to fight them, we at Nyoxing will accompany them until the end. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 583. Power of Kamigawa, give up resistance. You are no match for me. De Hongkun was suspended in mid-air a few meters above the ground, looking down at the power of the divine river where Chu Jian was half kneeling on the ground, his words full of pride. Today, De Hongkun used actual evidence to prove that Lai Yang civilization's god-making project surpassed the power of Dexing's god-making project, the divine river. The original fear of Dinyo in his heart disappeared at this moment. As long as you hand over the murderer of my child, I can leave Dexing. After all, we don't want a full-scale war to break out. King Lai Yang, don't you think it's too late to say this now? Millions of people have died in Dexing. Do you think you can just let it go? If it were your Lai Yang civilization that was destroyed by me, would you spare me? Faced with the questioning of the power of Shenhe, De Hongkun had nothing to say. Of course he would not spare the other party, but would completely destroy him. Just as they were talking, a jet black fighter plane came quickly from the distance, and in the blink of an eye it was over De Hongkun and the power of the divine river. The next moment, a figure jumped out of the fighter plane and landed on the charred earth with a bang. It was the Noxian war god who had received the order from the Noxian head of state and came to support the power of Kamigawa. Oh! This is so miserable. King Lai Yang, you and I both belong to the order of fighting gods. Don't you feel that you have lost the face of a god by attacking ordinary people? Nyoxing god of war sighed and began to deal with De Hongkun. Although he was belligerent, he would not attack ordinary people. This seemed to him to be very unworthy. God of war of Nyoxing, you are here just in time. Hand over the murderer of my child, otherwise you, Nyoxing, will turn into dust in the universe. The threat in De Hongkun's words made Nyoxing war god very unhappy. He carried black cut on his shoulders and fired back directly. If I give you face, I won't make friends with you. If you dare to attack me, Nyoxing, if you dare to touch Nyoxing, I will chop off your Lai Yang star. You. De Hongkun was furious, and the red light around him boiled again, and the temperature suddenly began to rise, even forming a ring-shaped energy circle around it. Seeing this, Nyoxing war god immediately forgot about the leader's order to capture Lai Yang king. This Lai Yang king was so arrogant that it was impossible to communicate without giving him a beating. How long will it take for your final decision? This old man seems to be very difficult to mess with. You're talking nonsense. If he's so easy to mess with, give me 5 minutes. The power of Kamigawa has not been alienated from the Noxing god of war at all. The two have been fighting for hundreds of years, and they both know each other very well, even if they don't know each other well. The god of war of Nyoxing was shocked at first when he saw the beggar-like appearance of the power of Kamigawa. He was the first person in the entire known universe to have a say in dealing with the invincible scoundrel. Seeing the serious look on the force of Kamigawa, the Nyoxing warrior didn't talk too much and his expression became serious. Initiate the final judgment, target Sun God Emperor Hunkin. The final judgment has been activated, the target has been locked, the Sun God Emperor Hunkin is in the process of solving his divine body, 1%. Dehunken suddenly felt that he was locked by something, and at the same time he felt that he was being continuously scanned by some unknown existence. After looking at the power of Kamigawa with his eyes closed, he immediately became alert and raised his hand to prepare for the solar flare bombing. "Where are you looking?" Just when Dehunken focused on the power of the divine river, Nyoxing god of war made a few leaps and came to Dehunken's side, with the black cut raised high. The next moment, Dehunken, who was suspended several meters in the air, was chopped down from the sky by Nyoxing god of war with an axe. It was like a cannonball hitting the ground, splashing countless earth and rocks. Nyoxing god of war was unyielding when he gained the upper hand. As soon as he landed, he stepped heavily on the ground and rushed towards the position where Dehunken fell. Suddenly, a solid red beam of light penetrated the dust and struck the chest of Nyoxing war god. The charging Nyoxing war god immediately flew backwards, and the beam of light extended forward, cutting a ravine on the ground that reached the end of the line of sight. "Nyoxing god of war, the power of Kamigawa, you have completely angered me. Since you are so unreasonable, we, the Liang civilization, don't need to worry about anything. Today I will let the known universe know that those who offend me, Liang, will only be destroyed. This is our Liang heavenly way. It's bullshit. Look at me beating your heavenly laws until they are nothing more than bullshit." The Nyoxing god of war climbed up, holding the black cutter like a meteor across a distance of hundreds of meters and pointing directly at Dehunken. The black cutter axe blade in his hand became brighter and brighter. When the distance was about the same, the Nyoxing warrior made a sweeping black cut, and an energy blade like an angel's sword energy cut forward and expanded to a size of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye. Dehunken's expression condensed when he saw this, and he raised his hand to bombard with solar flares. He only heard a terrifying loud bang, and an extremely huge energy impact swept over. The Nyoxing god of war was directly carried by the impact of this energy and flew up. He felt like the world was spinning, and finally fell heavily to the ground. After tens of seconds, the impact of the energy burst gradually subsided. Nyoxing god of war climbed up, and the environment in his sight changed drastically again. Originally, they were in an area that looked like a giant crater. At this moment, this crater it turned into two intertwined images. The attack just launched by Nyoxing god of war was directly wiped out by the solar flare bombardment, without causing any harm to Dehunken. Soon the power of Kamigawa also appeared. Although they were embarrassed, as long as they were not at the center of the solar flare bombardment, their third-generation divine bodies would not be seriously damaged. Subsequently, Nyoxing god of war failed in both his long-range attacks and his attempts to rush to Dehunken's side, because Dehunken's fighting move was single, but extremely effective, which was to explode. Whether you rush over or use long-range attacks, you just need to explode and it's all over, and Dehunken doesn't show any signs of fatigue. But Dehunken's opponent is not the Nyoxing god of war. The power of the divine river has been fishing for so long, and the progress of the final judgment has reached 70%. And Dehunken also realized that the power that was constantly scanning him was extremely dangerous. After blowing up the Nyoxing god of war again, he turned around and flew high into the sky. "Don't run. Be quiet." Seeing this, the power of the divine river roared loudly, and at the same time directly activated the final ruling. The void sword fiercely jumped into the sky, and a giant void sword fell from the sky, with the tip of the sword pointing directly at Dehunken in mid-air. Dehunken, who had just recovered from his unconscious state, saw the huge void sword crushing down from the sky. Dehunken sensed the danger that could make him fall. The next moment, his body burst out with a terrifying red light. In an instant, his body was engulfed by the red light and gradually expanded like a star, emitting dazzling light. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 584. Boom. Terrifying vibrations and explosions continued to reach the ears of the power of Kamigawa and the god of war of Nyoxing. The entire line of sight was occupied by a large terrifying fireball that shot straight into the sky. It was a fireball that burned like a star in the Dino galaxy. Whether it is the earth or the atmosphere above the sky, they are all vaporized under the expanding fireball. The power of Kamigawa and the god of war are inevitably brought to the sky by the spreading shock wave. From outer space, it looks like a fiery red pustule has grown on the star, and it is still expanding, while the void sword, which is extremely small compared to the fireball, is constantly pressing down. But as time went by, cracks began to appear on the void sword, and more cracks began to appear. Eventually, the star-like fireball exploded together, turning into a shockwave that almost swept the entire planet. Sun Incarnate. This is Dehunken's last trump card, and it is also the fundamental reason why his sun god is called a moving natural disaster in the universe. So far, he has only used it once. And that time, nearly one half of the planet that he used as his trump card was destroyed. The entire planet later turned into a Death Star, which could disintegrate at any time. This was also the reason why Dehunken had threatened to destroy Nyoxing before, but now he was defeated by his previous subordinate, the power of Shenhe, and was forced to use his trump card. In the outer space universe of Dexing, which was missing a corner, Dehunken was breathing extremely rapidly. Because he forcibly activated the incarnation of the sun, he inevitably entered a weak state due to the overload of his divine body. Looking at the devastated Dexing, Dehunken said in his heart that it was impossible not to regret it, but it was useless to regret it now. Now he had completely offended Dexing to death. From today on, there will never be peace between Liang and Dexing, only an irresolvable blood feud. What worries Dehunken the most is not Dexing, whose strength has been greatly damaged by this battle, but Nyoxing, which has announced that it will merge with Dexing to form the Dino civilization. Among them, Emperor Hunken had seen the power of the two main gods of Dino who had joined forces. If he hadn't felt something in his heart before, he would definitely have been killed by the final judgment of the power of the divine river. Thinking of this, Emperor Hunken's heart became fierce and he looked at the star of the Dino galaxy, and then without hesitation, it turned into a stream of red light and headed towards the direction of the Dino star. Now that we have forged an irresolvable hatred with the Dino civilization, we might as well just stop at nothing and completely destroy the Dino civilization, so that Liang will have two fewer competitors. As for how many casualties it would cause and how serious the consequences would be, this was not within the scope of Dehunken's thinking, who was stimulated by Dino's alliance at this moment. Dehunken next plans to use the product that has been developed to the extreme in the Sun Star Drive technology, and is also the biggest trump card of their Sun civilization, which is the technology to catalyze supernovae. Using star-driven technology to turn an originally stable star into a supernova quickly would be a terrifying explosion that could affect a large galaxy. If you were not careful, you would be trapped in it. But Dehunken, who had just experienced a life and death crisis, could not care so much. After spending a certain amount of time, Dehunken finally came to the vicinity of the Dino star. Looking at the blazing star floating quietly in the starry sky of the universe, emitting endless bright light, Dehunken let his tense body begin to relax, because he was going to do something extremely dangerous next. He wants to supernova the stars in the Dino system. This is the most dangerous technology that Liang has explored in studying star drive technology, because it is irreversible. And since this technology was developed, the Liang civilization has not used it in practice because the destructive power of superplanets is too powerful. A supernova explosion can even affect all civilizations and life in a large galaxy. The consequences of this will definitely make the Sun civilization become the target of public criticism. But now Dehunken can't take care of that much. If he doesn't take the opportunity to destroy Dinyo's civilization, Li Yang will definitely usher in Dinyo's crazy revenge based on the damage he has caused on Dexing, so it is better to strike first. Almost immediately after Dihunkin manipulated the Dino star, Nyo star observed abnormal changes in the star, and Nyo star scholars immediately started a discussion about this change. However, because Nyoxing lacked understanding of star drive technology, they did not know that the stars in their galaxy were rapidly transforming into supernova stages under the influence of Dihunkin. This just gives Dihunkin time to catalyze the transformation of the Dino star into a supernova, because Dihunkin cannot directly supernova the Dino star, but can only affect the Dino star and take thousands of years to supernova. Shortened to just a few days or even a few hours. It wasn't until one day later that Dino's supernova state reached a point where it could not be reversed or hidden, that Dino realized something was wrong. When Dihunkin realized that Dino's supernova was about to explode in a few hours, he stopped transforming Dino's supernova, activated his own solar interstellar navigation algorithm, turned into a stream of light and left the Dino galaxy, heading for the nearest the insect gate is preparing to return to Li Yang star. At the last moment of leaving the Dino galaxy, Dihunkin issued an announcement to the Dino civilization, that is, Dino's star is about to explode as a supernova in a few hours. All Dino residents are asked to seek refuge in other systems. This news immediately detonated the residents of Dino, because they had also seen the changes in the stars with their own eyes, plus this announcement from the Sun Star civilization. In an instant, the residents of the Dino civilization were in chaos, causing a huge headache for the Dino government, which had originally detected that the Dino star might undergo a supernova reaction and was preparing for the evacuation of high-end talents. However, in the end Dino still mobilized all the spacecraft he could control and began to evacuate the people on Nox and Dex, but he wanted to complete the evacuation of all residents before the star exploded, unless a miracle happened. Finally, under the desperate eyes of ordinary residents of Dino who fled the Dino system on transport ships, the stars of the Dino system exploded. This star, which had provided light and heat for life in the Dino galaxy for countless thousands of years, met its end at this moment. It turned all of its remaining life force into energy and released it at this moment. At this moment, he is the brightest star in the universe, blooming the brightest light of his life to the entire universe. That brilliant energy is like the first light of the creation of the world, passing through all the surrounding planets, no matter what form they exist in. All civilizations and lives collapsed into the most basic atoms of the universe. The Nyo star god of war, General Kaya, and some of the few surviving high-level talents from both Dino and Nyo sides were speechless for a long time as they looked at the gorgeous scene slowly spreading in the starry sky through the observation window of the battleship. At the moment when the Dino system was about to be destroyed, the leader of Nyo, Jarvan III, and the extremely injured power of Kamigawa chose to destroy the Dino system together, because they knew that in a few hours, there would be nothing but miracles. The Norns were able to escape the scope of the supernova. Only General Kaya carried the cutting-edge technology from both sides that Dino compiled at the last moment, and the super-gene backup data, and successfully escaped from the Dino system in Novo's only experimental prototype warship capable of crossing large galaxies. Avoid being affected by supernova. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 585. The Super Theological Seminary is also partly responsible for the reason why Dino is waiting for death. The Super Theological Seminary is crazy and obsessed with creating more powerful God-making projects. For the research on other basic technologies, there is inevitably some slack. This also made the Dino civilization, which was deeply affected by it, follow the example and invested the entire civilization's manpower and material resources in the three major God-making projects, thus neglecting the space, energy, technological progress in interstellar voyages. The explosion of the supernova nakedly exposed this flaw of the Dino civilization to all high-level officials of the entire known civilization. It is said that the entire known universe can perfectly avoid the dangers caused by supernova explosions. Then there is only the angel civilization. The angel civilization has the standing celestial battleship Skyblade that can jump across galaxies. At the same time, the angel also has fast-pass stargates that can quickly reach various star fields of the Order of Justice. Coupled with the celestial computer that can now simulate the entire angel nebula, Kesha's treasure house of sacred knowledge, any abnormal movement of any star in the angel nebula will be discovered by the celestial supercomputer, allowing the angel civilization to quickly go to process it. You said the Dino civilization was destroyed. Who did it? Binghua, who was returning to Merlot Heaven, was surprised and asked Jingnan on the other side of the communication. Queen, it was the Sun God Emperor Hunkin of the Liang civilization who did this. He detonated Dino's star, causing a supernova explosion that affected more than a dozen nearby civilizations. Moreover, the Liang civilization is still hunting down the remnants of Dino throughout the universe, and seems to want to kill them all. Jingnan's tone was equally surprised. The Dino civilization was not an aerospace civilization that had little presence in the known universe and was destroyed at any time. It was a civilization that could compete with angels in a certain field, but it was destroyed so suddenly. I immediately rushed back to the Merlot Heavenly Palace and told the soldiers to provide certain conveniences if they encounter the Dino survivors. Queen, are we going to protect the Dino survivors? Jingnan asked in surprise, but Binghua answered coldly. No, we don't need to provide shelter to Dino, we just need to secretly help them escape from the following pursuit of the Liang civilization. After saying that, Binghua hung up the communication. Her idea was simple. Since the blazing sun destroyed the Dino civilization, the two must have become absolutely irreconcilable enemies. And the Liang civilization can destroy Dino, and the power it possesses cannot be underestimated by angels. Therefore, Binghua just wanted to add an enemy to Liang, so Jingnan asked the angels below to give him a certain amount of money if they encountered the Dino survivors. Convenient. A few days later, Binghua returned to the Merlot Heavenly Court and began to summon the mid to high-level battle angels under her command. This time she went out to investigate and planted a nail under Liang Bing's command. It was time to bring the war between angels and demons to an end. It is different from the angels who began to secretly gather middle and high-level angels and prepare for the war between angels and demons that may occur decades later. Liang Bing is currently studying the reincarnation technology that she has studied for a long time, and it is already very effective. By simultaneously uploading one's own thinking and memory to the dark plane, it is stored as dark information, and then imported into a new body or body through electronic soul technology to complete the disguised resurrection. Liang Bing, together with a group of scientific research angels from the original Apocalypse Legion and a small number of demons, observed the newly created body of the great demon in the laboratory. Get ready and start the experiment immediately. As long as the reincarnation technology is successful, we demons will no longer have to fear angels from now on, because we are immortal. After speaking, Liang Bing turned around to look at his subordinates, and spoke confidently. Let's wait and see today. Start experimenting. Hearing that the electronic soul equipment used for reincarnation technology was activated, the dark information prepared in advance for storing information began to be converted into electronic souls, and then entered the tall demon's body through the conduction equipment. After a few breaths, the demon's body, which had been maintaining minimal consumption, suddenly moved. The next moment, it suddenly opened its eyes and sat up in shock. Everyone is looking forward to seeing this scene, hoping that this demon has not lost his previous personality and memory, otherwise it will be no different from death. After the reincarnated demon looked around the surrounding environment, he finally saw Liang Bing. He quickly knelt down on the ground in surprise and saluted excitedly and shouted, "Queen, I thought I would never see you again, but I didn't expect to see you again, Queen. Queen, are you dead too?" Liang Bing laughed, opened the transparent isolation door of the laboratory, walked to the excited demon, patted him on the shoulder, and explained the current situation to him personally. "Don't worry, my loyal demon warrior, you are not dead yet, and none of us are dead. It's just that you were brought back from death by me, the Demon King Morgana. Because I need loyal warriors like you to continue fighting for me and serve me. Queen, these are the angels who have been transformed one after another in the past 10 years. They are all young, the oldest is no more than 30 years old. They are all carefully selected and determined people who believe in justice in their hearts." Jingnan introduced to Binghua, who came to observe the training of angel recruits. Hearing this, Binghua nodded and looked down at the young angels wearing basic angel armor, who were cooperating with the training team under the arrangements of some old angel warriors, and sighed. "Putting their age among our angels, they are not much different from children. Remember to ask the angel warriors to take more care of them and don't be too impatient when training them. They are different from us. Most of them still retain their previous living habits. They may not be able to adapt to our angels' lifestyle for a while, so they must be given a certain amount of time to adapt." After watching the training of angel recruits for a period of time, Binghua went to Kesha's palace. "You have investigated Liang Bing's traces, which is good. Regarding the next war with demonic civilization, I will leave it to you to handle it, if Liang Bing insists on resisting. Binghua, you can handle it yourself. No matter what fate she ends up with, I can accept it." Kesha walked to the window of the palace, stared at the artificial blue sky of Merlot heaven, and spoke slowly. "Sister Kesha." Binghua wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Kesha. "I know what you want to say, she is my sister. But I am also the king of angels, and the lives of angels are equally precious. I will not participate in this war between angels and demons. I am afraid that I will be soft-hearted. Between angels and demons, only one can exist in this war. I don't want to see the demons resurrecting again." After hearing this, Binghua was silent for a long time before responding, "Understood, I will do my best to capture Liang Bing. If things are impossible, I will not hold back." Kesha turned around and looked at Binghua, sighed and said, "Binghua, then go ahead and make preparations." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 586. After Binghua left, Kesha let out a heavy breath and diverted her attention away from things related to the cold ice demon. She is now beginning to have headaches about the aftermath of the destruction of the Dino galaxy. The evolution of the known universe occupied by the Kamigawa body into modern times has been supported by several powerful god-making civilizations. The former Island and Thunder Blade civilization, followed by the Dino civilization and the Blazing Sun civilization, are all considered the successors of the new Kamigawa. The known universe under the Kamigawa system is slowly becoming stronger. This is also the reason why the once disbanded Beast Body civilization and the Triangle Body did not choose to make a comeback. In their view, the Kamigawa universe today is not weak. Even if they win a war with it, they cannot completely eliminate the Kamigawa universe. Therefore, both the Triangle and the Beast are waiting to see what happens, while slowly developing their own strength in order not to fall out of the top echelons of the universe. As for why the Beast and the Triangle dare not slack off, this is all because of the existence of angelic civilization. The angels became famous in the physical war, and later relied on the influence of the physical war and the technical support of the Super Seminary to approach the former Kamigawa civilization. It is impossible to verify whether today's angels are stronger than the former Kamigawa, but the combat power of angels is extremely powerful in the eyes of beasts and triangles. If the angel civilization of the former body war had not participated, then there would be today's gods. River known universe. Kesha felt tired when she thought of the current situation of the angel civilization. However, there was also good news. Through Liang's destruction of Dino, it can be expected that Liang would become another top god-making civilization in the Kamigawa universe, together with the angels. Deterrence beast body and triangle body. On the other hand, Kesha and Binghua both intend to use the part of star drive technology related to catalyzing supernovae as one of the technical difficulties that angel civilization must overcome next. Both Binghua and Kesha hold the idea that angels cannot live without them even if they are not used. At the same time, they must find ways to restrain the technology of the Liang civilization. On the other side, the Dino remnants, who had been hunted down by the Sun civilization for several years, finally couldn't bear the frightening days anymore. Some of them chose to disembark at a nearby civilization and became ordinary Kamigawa people from then on. Spend the rest of your life. Although General Ka tried his best to retain them, it had no effect at all. The Dino survivors who had lost their homes were drained of the last fighting spirit in their hearts by the pursuing soldiers of the scorching sun, and they no longer had the confidence to rebuild their homes. Boom! The sound of heavy flesh hitting the bulkhead was heard. The Noxian god of war held up Ka's collar, his eyes bloodshot. Roared at General Ka. Look at all this! What have become of us now? Do you understand the lost dog? We are now a homeless dog driven around the universe by the blazing sun. Ka opened Nyoxing war god's hand holding his collar, straightened his clothes a little, and responded to Nyoxing war god's question with a roar. I will lead everyone to survive until the Dino civilization is rebuilt. This is my only mission to survive, and it is also the destiny I must fulfill. Bullshit fate, I can't see that future at all. My brothers and my men died one by one, but as the Lord God of Nyo Star, I can't do anything. I lost the country that I needed to protect, and the Nyoxing that gave birth to and raised me. Now, my brothers who lived and died together are also leaving me one by one. I am fed up with this kind of life. Nyoxing god of war smashed a dent in the bulkhead with one punch, and there was a glint in his eyes. This once indomitable god of war was about to be defeated by the cruel reality that was coming one after another. For a moment, the atmosphere in the conference room fell into a depressive state. A German female officer who participated in the meeting spoke up to ease the depressing atmosphere, but both the Noxian god of war and General Ka had an attitude that was unnecessary. This made the German star female officer named Lian Feng a little hurt. However, as an elite soldier who could be entrusted by Jarvan III to take care of Prince Jarvan, her heart was naturally tough and she was not crushed by the reality of this hellish difficulty. Two of you, this is not the time for us to be angry with each other. We have the most cutting-edge scientific and technological data in Dino. As long as we can stabilize and develop, it is only a matter of time before we can rebuild the former Dino civilization. That's easy to say. How can we stabilize and develop with Liang's gang of bastards following us? Can we go to the angel civilization, join the Order of Justice as Heavenly Sword, and apply for their asylum? You're overthinking. Those women are not philanthropists. It's not like we haven't met them along the way. In addition to giving us some help, when did they offer to shelter us Dino refugees? The Nyoxing god of war choked Lian Feng, then turned away and stopped talking. Only General Ka was silent there, and finally he spoke slowly. If you want to stabilize and develop, it's not impossible, but it's just nothing. Don't give me any more riddles, or I can't help but give you a beating. Lian Feng couldn't help but look at General Ka expectantly. She admired General Ka very much for this plan to destroy the top management of Dexing and take into account all the reactions of Dexing, thus allowing Noxing to easily annex Dexing. Capable. Destroy the Sun Star. Only by putting them in the same situation as us will they have no extra energy to hunt us down. After hearing this, the three of them were silent again. They all thought of this method, but how to destroy the Liang star was a question. Until the Nyoxing god of war found General Ka looking at him, his heart moved and he understood why Ka said this method. A relieved smile appeared on the face of the Nyoxing god of war. He stood up with his hands on his knees and looked at General Kaya. "Don't worry, Kaya. As a soldier of Nox, I will fight for the reconstruction of Nox without any regrets, so tell me the specific plan." Kaya took a deep breath and spoke out the battle plan he had been thinking about. As Kaya told him, Lian Feng's eyes were full of complex emotions as he looked at Nyoxing God of War and Kaya. Nyoxing God of War, on the other hand, became more and more excited the more he listened, and finally he laughed heartily. "This is what I should do as the Lord God of Nyo Star. Kaya, you finally did something that suits me." As time passed, the Liang people who pursued the Dino survivors suddenly discovered that they were heading in the direction of Liang civilization. This immediately made the pursuing Liang people nervous, and they immediately notified Liang Star. Emperor Hunkin was very unconcerned about this. How could the defeated generals pose a threat to Liang? The two gods of Dino who once forced him to the point where he had to use the incarnation of the sun to escape, now only one is left, and he is still a reckless man who only knows how to chop, and he is not afraid at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 587. In the Shenhe Tiandao galaxy and the Tiandao Liang planet system, an inconspicuous small black fighter plane was rapidly approaching the Liang star. "Sir, we are about to enter the observation range of the Nantianmen of Liang star. Relying on the shielding and detection capabilities of this fighter plane, we can only reach the vicinity of Nantianmen before we are discovered." Shun Yuan sat in the driver's seat and reported to the only member in the rear, Nyosin War God, who was closing his eyes to rest. "It's okay, the distance is almost there." The God of War of Nyoxing opened his eyes, and Shun Yuan could clearly feel that the God of War who was once confident, fearless, and dared to fight to the death for Nyoxing was back again. "Sir, don't you blame me?" Shun Yuan hesitated for a long time before asking this question. When the Nyosin War God heard this, he just glanced at Shun Yuan and looked away. "It's no use to blame you or not, Dino has been destroyed. Even if I chop you down now and hand you over to that bastard Dihunkin, will Dino be able to recover? If I hadn't shot Crown Prince Liang, Emperor Hunkin wouldn't have found Dexing, sir, you wouldn't have fought him with the power of the Divine River, and Dino civilization wouldn't have been destroyed." Although Shun Yuan only wanted to take revenge on Liang civilization, he still had some feelings for Nyoxing, who had lived for decades. Since the destruction of Dino, his heart had been empty, and he didn't know if he was doing the right thing. "There's nothing you can't do. Do you think that without you, Dihunkin wouldn't have found Dexing, and Dino wouldn't have been destroyed by the hands of Liang?" Nyoxing God of War stood up and walked towards Shun Yuan in the driver's seat with his tall figure, and placed his big hand heavily on his shoulder. "While it is true that your actions resulted in extremely serious consequences, this is not the time to debate this. No matter who killed Crown Prince Liang, we at Noxing would not hand over the murderer at that time. If you feel guilty, then spend the rest of your life rebuilding Dino civilization." Almost as soon as the Noxing God of War finished speaking, an alarm sounded in the fighter plane that was locked by the Liang civilization. Because this fighter plane was made of dark alloy coating, the Liang people didn't notice it until they approached the Nantianmen. Nyoxing God of War came to the fighter plane door, opened it, and said something to Shun Yuan. "After putting me down, you should return to the battleship immediately. Your life is worthless if you stay here." After saying that, the Nyoxing God of War jumped out of the fighter plane and headed towards the magnificent white gate at high speed. That was exactly where the portal of Liang civilization was. It was a large insect gate through which one could directly enter the surroundings of Liang star. However, this place is heavily guarded by Liang soldiers all year round, so no civilization has chosen to attack it, but today this rule has been broken. Seeing several Liang fighter jets approaching rapidly, Nyosin God of War raised his hand and threw a black cut. The next moment, the black cut that drew an arc in the universe rotated across several approaching Liang fighter jets, and several huge fireballs bloomed in the universe, failing to stop the approach of the Noxing God of War at all. After passing through a transparent membrane, Noxing God of War only felt his body sink, falling downwards, and landed on the platform carrying the Nantianman. "Who are you?" "I'm your grandpa." As soon as he finished speaking, Nyosin War God stepped out in front of the Liang young general who asked the question. After a swift black cutting blow, all that was left was a corpse that was almost broken into two halves. Immediately, the surrounding Liang soldiers understood that today's intruder was not to be trifled with, and they lined up to surround the Nyoxing God of War. Looking at the surrounding soldiers holding shields and spears, who looked like the soldiers of the civilized army in the pre-nuclear era, Nyosin War God just snorted coldly and warned aloud. "I advise you to retreat. With these crappy things in your hands, it's impossible to hurt me. Intruder, this is Nantianman, the gateway to the Liang. It is you who should retreat. And I have already called the Liang reinforcements. If you insist on breaking through the Nantian gate, the only outcome that will greet you is death." The Noxing God of War stood in front of a group of Liang soldiers in front of the Nantian gate. He was very disdainful of the words of the man wearing the general's armor. He punched the black cutter on the ground and held the end of the battle axe. "I came here today and have no intention of going back. Just use whatever tricks you have." Seeing that the Noxing God of War looked confident, General Liang stopped talking nonsense and waved his hands to give orders. The Liang soldiers in formation quickly began to press forward. A few minutes later, there was a mess in front of Nantianman, and the remains of countless Liang soldiers were floating randomly in the space around Nantianman. The Nyoxing God of War stepped on the chest of the guard of Nantianman, put the black cut in front of his neck, looked down at him and spoke. "Now you understand who should step aside." After speaking, the Noxing God of War grabbed the Liang guard and walked through the Nantian gate. His goal was a planet with a large red surface, which was the Liang star. In the universe before this planet, an army of the blazing sun has already been assembled, and the leader is the sun god Emperor Hunkin himself. "Nyo Star War God, I haven't found you Dino remnants yet, but I didn't expect you to fall into the trap today." De Hunkin was sitting on the cloud-like flying platform with Pan Zhen beside him, and there were three great blazing suns guarding him. Under them, there were many heavily armed and elite blazing sun legions, numbering in the tens of thousands. The reason why Liang put up such a formation was because they were facing the main god of Nyoxing, the bearer of the super god-making project at the same level as their king. Then it depends on whether your net is strong enough, or someone may die if the net breaks. As the Nyoxing God of War spoke, he casually threw the Nantian Nen guard in his hand to the side, which made the three guards behind De Hunkin look ugly. Because the guard of Nantianman is also one of the four guardians and is their colleague, but now he is thrown to the ground by Nyoxing God of War like trash. "King, I ask for the courage to go out and kill Nyoxing War God." The tallest and strongest of the four guardians asked De Hunkin, but was rejected. "You are no match for him, Pan Zhen. Go and meet him. If you lose, retreat immediately." "Yes, my king will do my best to kill this enemy." Pan Zhen, who was tall, wearing a frosted silver battle armor and a silver tassel-decorated helmet, held a gun blade and landed in front of the Nyoxing War God and saluted. "Fierce Sun Star, Pan Zhen." Regarding Pan Zhen's self-registered number, Nyoxing God of War didn't pay attention to him at all. He only felt that De Hunkin was humiliating him. The reason why he had such an idea was entirely because De Hunkin was just looking down leisurely. Watching him was like watching a monkey show, with no intention of ordering his subordinates to attack him. "In this case, I will kill one of your generals first to see if you can still hold your breath." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 588. After Pan Zhen bowed in accordance with the Liang etiquette, energy flames that glowed like stars immediately appeared around his body, illuminating the surrounding space slightly red. Pan Zhen activated his maximum energy release as soon as he came up, because his opponent was the Nyoxing god of war. If he had done it for the purpose of testing, he might have been cut in half in a few rounds. Interesting. Seeing this, Nyoxing god of war also slightly put away his inner contempt, because Pan Zhen's state was very similar to the energy radiation state of De Hunken when he was indexing, but the energy intensity was several levels lower. The next moment, Pan Zhen was the first to take action, leaping forward one by one across a distance of tens of meters, stabbing the Nyoxing god of war's head with the gun blade in his hand. Boom! But as a man known as the god of war, how could Nyoxing war god be hit by such a straight move? The black cut was lifted up, blocking Pan Zhen's stab like a thick shield. The exploding ring-shaped energy shockwave made the platform carrying the entire Nantianmen tremble slightly, and the white stone ground around them was shattered and rolled to varying degrees. But the next moment, the Nyoxing god of war behind the black cut quickly stretched out his hand, grasped the front end of the gun blade glowing with red energy halo, and then pulled it sharply in his direction, raising the black cut with the other hand high, as if wanting to split it in half on the spot. Pan Zhen couldn't withdraw his weapon at all, because in terms of strength, he was just an ordinary third-generation god from Liang and couldn't compare with Nyoxing god of war. He could only loosen his weapon and dodge slightly to one side. But as Liang general, Pan Zhen is not someone who just takes a beating without fighting back. Even if he loses his weapon, it doesn't mean that he has no attack ability. When Pan Zhen raised his hand, thick red energy particles poured out from his hand. He pulled his hands to both sides, and the energy turned into a spear-like shape and was thrown towards the Nyoxing god of war who was very close at hand. Boom! A violent explosion suddenly rose, and thick fire clouds swept away in all directions, occupying almost half of the square platform in front of Nantian Gate. But soon as the fire clouds dispersed, everyone on the Liang side widened their eyes, because Pan Zhen fell to the ground at this moment, and a long gap appeared on the chest armor, in which red energy particles like blood were constantly flowing towards exudation. There is a dark red melting mark on the belly armor of the Nyoxing god of war. It is cooling rapidly at the moment, and there is still a faint white smoke. Facing Pan Zhen's attack just now, Nyoxing god of war had no intention of evading, and directly resisted and gave Pan Zhen an axe, causing him to fall to the ground seriously injured. Nyoxing god of war stepped forward, holding the black cutter in his right hand, with a serious expression. At this moment, no Liang generals dared to save him, and they were all inexplicably restrained on the spot. Pan Zhen felt the strongest, as if a big hand was strangling his throat. At this moment, he actually had the urge to turn around and run away. However, as General Liang, Pan Zhen is not someone who has never seen the world. He quickly recovered from the mysterious and shocking state, used energy transfer technology, and began to gather energy to prepare for a deadly counterattack, at least to severely injure the Nyoxing god of war. Boom! The torrent of blazing energy fell from the sky, directly covering the Nyoxing god of war and the area several meters around it. The terrifying high temperature scorched the square platform of Nantianmen, deformed and melted it. Pan Zhen was also rescued by the Sun Guardians who reacted at this time. After a few seconds, the torrent of light dissipated, revealing a dark and fiery red pit. The tall figure standing upright among them was so eye-catching. The dark armor on the Nyoxing god of war was now covered with numerous fiery red cracks and there were many signs of melting. There were also many small cracks on his face, but they were disappearing at an extremely fast speed, but this scene shocked the Liang gods. That was a solar flare bombing. Although it was a weakened battleship main gun that was already as powerful as the blazing sun, the Noxian war god withstood it completely. De Hunken, is this all you can do? It's completely painless. Whoever wants to fight me next, I will stand here. Although it was a pity that Pan Zhen could not be killed, the god of war of Neo Star also knew that it was impossible for Emperor Hunkin to watch him kill one of his generals, but the power of the solar flare bombing cluster just now was indeed stronger than that released on Dexing. The solar flare bombardment is much larger. However, after resisting De Hunkin's attack just now, Neo Seeing War God also had an idea in his mind. He was going to prepare a big one soon to see if he could get a few generals from the Liang civilization to be buried with him. After a while, when no one from the Liang side came out to challenge him, Neo Seeing War God sneered. Why, even with your Liang king watching from behind, no one dares to challenge me. It seems that Pan Zhen is the only one in Liang who is somewhat courageous, and the others are greedy for life and afraid of death. Nyoxing God of War began to slowly improve the energy conversion efficiency of his gene engine while talking. It is now close to 100%. However, because it does not output and gather energy, the surrounding dark energy is still relatively calm. Seeing the unscrupulous talk of Nyoxing God of War, but the generals and soldiers on Liang's side who dared to be angry and dare not speak out, De Hunkin couldn't sit still. The Nyoxing God of War is indeed powerful. Pan Zhen, the strongest general of the Liang civilization, was slashed to the verge of death by it in 2 or 3 blows. It is no wonder that these generals dare not go into battle, because they know that they can only fight with an axe. De Hunkin turned into a ray of red light and left his throne, landing not far from the god of war. Nyo Seeing a golden halberd was formed from the falling red light spear and was held in his hand. In terms of pretentiousness, Nyo Seeing God of War can give him a high score. Is this De Hunkin's level of hand-to-hand combat? It's not that Nyo Seeing War God is bragging, it's not enough for him to cut with a few blows. De Hunkin also didn't forget the scene when he planned to have a hand-to-hand combat with the power of Kamigawa and the god of war of Nyoxing when he was indexing, but was beaten violently. Therefore, he had no intention of stepping forward and fighting in close combat. He raised his halberd and pulled out along the energy blade cuts out. Seeing this, the Noxing god of war was very disdainful, and instead of cutting with black, he directly punched the cut energy blade into energy fragments. Then Nyoxing god of war stepped hard on the ground, and the hard platform of Nantianmen suddenly showed downward signs, which turned into a black afterimage and shot towards De Hunkin. De Hunkin also planned to use the old method used in dexing to continuously consume the Nyoxing god of war, but he did not expect that the Nyoxing god of war would be so tough as soon as he came up. However, Emperor Hunkin also had a countermeasure. He raised his golden halberd, and the surging red energy gathered and swept forward, like a storm caused by a star. The hard platform floor began to melt away from the energy impact, turning into debris and flying everywhere, but a tenacious figure moved upstream, approaching De Hunkin step by step. Finally, in De Hunkin's shocked eyes, a scarred arm with white smoke stretched out from the torrent of energy and grabbed his golden halberd. And Nyo Seeing War God's hoarse voice, as if he was suppressing something, also reached his ears. Does this mere stellar storm want to stop the progress of Nyoxing God of War? You are too underestimated of Nyoxing's main god.